Hello.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, it's just us. Let's have a quick chat before anybody else gets on.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
a very,
I'm cool with
a
that.
very, very public, personal chat today.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to do this again outside. I'm hoping that there's not too much ambient noise, but I don't know. We'll see.
We can hope for the dragster cars that were joined us last week.
Exactly.
Well, I also chose outside, and the ambient noise you guys might get from me is creek. So
Spoiled. Spoiled here in Oregon.
yeah, this is about a mile and a half from my house, and um, just a place I come often to run. And this last week we talked with Nick Willis, and a couple things he said just were very outside and nature oriented. So I thought, why not bring the talk to outside this week? So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you grabbed onto that too. I think to me, it was the thing of kind of, it was like about being present, really, which I think we'd been on this trajectory as a society of being very unpresent. And sometimes there's silver linings in these sorts of events where we kind of get focused on like what really matters. And I mean, for me, it meant, like I told you the other day, I went for a bike ride, went for a long bike ride, and I used to love doing that. And I just haven't because I've been too busy.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And when we get in these forced moments of you know being told you can't do certain things, it makes you maybe have that opportunity to reevaluate what was necessary before. It's very easy to gain momentum and just start rolling with, well, I'm going to add one more thing to my plate. I'm going to add one more thing to my plate. And, high
Yeah.
schoolers are notorious for that because you feel like you got to build a resume to get to college. And then
Yep.
once you're at college, you got to, do one more thing to impress people to get the job. And then once you got the job, like, when does it stop? Aside from when a virus makes you. So
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a wonderful question to ask. Like, when does it stop? And I would say sometimes it's external forces that make you stop, and then sometimes it's when you decide to stop it.
yeah, definitely.
That's the healthier option, I think.
And I think this, even if you have those forced moments, it helps you understand that you still are in control of making those decisions. You ultimately you can, decide to do that. And
Yeah.
so, but I'm really really thankful we get a chance to speak to some of these guests we have. And Nick Willis was particularly awesome to talk to, very conversational and
Yep.
easy to chat with. So
Yeah, being such a high level athlete, you kind of get this. I don't know. I guess we're kind of used to those pro athletes being a big deal and knowing that they're a big deal and acting like they're a big deal. Nick was super down to earth and willing to answer all kinds of questions and give back questions because he seemed genuinely curious about people, which was cool.
Yeah, one of the things he had mentioned was how he liked reading stories about people, but that he liked reading stories about people like before they got real good, and listening to blogs about skateboarders, before they got elite, and just kind of that rise and that growth and the human potential. And that was really cool. And then he definitely turned the tables with asking some questions to our team. Maybe they weren't ready for the questions, but you could tell that he has that growth mindset.
For sure. I would very much agree with that.
One of the things I really liked, and you mentioned it right at the beginning, was being present and being in the moment. And And I think one of the cool stories was when we asked him a question about whether what was his like favorite memory. What of all the things he's done, he's been a two-time Olympic medalist. He's been on the world stage for a long time now. I guess if you count his high school record, in 2001 or two when he was in New Zealand, as kind of becoming on that elite stage, and then time at Michigan, and then after, he's been almost 20 years now on a impressive stage. And tell us what you took from his answer on what his potentially his biggest race was, or most memorable, or how he related them.
Well, I mean, he compared one of his first races as like a 5-year-old, I think, to an Olympic final, which is like, what? But then in retrospect, I actually reflected on that myself, and I started running when I was 7. And so I could relate to that, like, rawness, I guess, that he was talking about. It's just so exciting as a child. I mean, I don't think many people learn how to run in the way that they learn how to do other sports. You just kind of go out there and do it.
Yeah.
And his just hearing that level of excitement about anything anymore is like amazing.
Got a wolf.
A wolf? What?
Or dog.
It's probably a dog. Let's hope it's a dog, not a wolf, but
let's call it a wolf. I just braved danger. All right. So.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, no, his he kind of equated the two as similar, or like equal in his mind. Which, to most of us is like crazy, like running a road race, a community road race compared to an Olympic finals is, they're not equivalent to most of us. But again, I think that just reiterates how down to earth he is and how humble maybe of a person he is.
Definitely.
So,
I think, no real need to reiterate all your points that, the moment's as big as what you want to make it, and the moment's as big as what you've had experience to up to that point. And, so I'll kind of take it in another direction that if you've handled the pressure of any stressful race, you kind of know how to handle the next level, because you have gone into the unknown at some point. You have, whether it was the first time you qualified for a conference meet, whether it's the first time you were in a final that was scored, whether it was the first time you got in the fast heat at a meet, or whether it's the first time you make nationals, or the first time that, you're running rounds to try and advance. Like any of those are firsts. And so you don't have to overcomplicate the moment. You just have to realize that you've been through a first before, and that you've survived it, and whether that outcome was good or bad, you survived it. And I think that's probably bordering on a topic for next week.
Yes, it is, because that sounds an awful lot like our other conversation we had this week.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah. Good job.
So, I think that it was a great lesson in being present and taking advantage of the moment you're in, and not making something bigger than it has to be. He talked about being scared or, nervous or anxious, whatever the word he used, prior to that, elementary school 200-meter dash, and how he had those same feelings in the Olympic final. So, he was at least able to understand the awareness of each situation.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of dovetails into another point he made of, kind of be successful in the bubble you're in, and then expand your bubble. So what are your takeaways on that comment by him?
I mean, honestly, he just put words to something I've always thought and kind of always felt, which, like I already talked about, I started running when I was young. And so it was, I mean, I think running in the United States is a little different than running in New Zealand, and we could pick that up from his conversation. But it's very community oriented there. And so you run in your town, and then you run in the city, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I think here in the States, I know for myself, it was, everything was in the state of Oregon. I grew up in Oregon, track meets were always around the state, and then goes up to the region, and then the nationals as Junior Olympics is what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But, then it keeps going up as you get older, like middle school, high school, college, like professional, post-collegiate. He was talking about that, and I could understand what he meant by, you get as much out of each of those little groups that you're in. You want to maximize your potential there, and I could relate to it, and I think that's what we all do. Is you face a challenge and you're like, okay, cool, what's the next one?
Mm-hmm.
And I just really appreciated the way he put it was great.
At the very beginning of us talking today, we were kind of off topic, but it
Mm-hmm.
feels like it's coming back on. That point was on topic about chasing that next thing, and I think there's a big difference between living in your moment and maximizing your moment before you take the next step, and chasing that next step too early. And I think I think it's just very, very difficult to describe the nuance between the two, but
Mm-hmm.
you definitely want to enjoy and maximize where you're at, not by trying to do more, not by trying to live for the next moment, but
Mm-hmm.
trying to really enjoy and take care of the now. And and if you can learn how to master the moment now, then when it's time to take that step to that next level,
Mm-hmm.
you will feel as secure as possible. Using the base analogy that's so common to runners,
Mm-hmm.
don't try to rush to that next stage of training. Maximize doing what you need to now, and create the best platform for yourself so that when your body is ready for that next level of training, you can go to it and you can make that seamless transition. A lot of injuries happen because people move to that next level probably before their body's ready to.
Yeah.
A lot of summer's such an amazing time to really take advantage of training alone, not necessarily alone. I mean, kind of are for most people right now, but in smaller groups, because you have that opportunity to listen to your body and tell when it's ready to kind of progress to that next stage. Just because a coach says, here's a 4-week block, here's the next 4-week block, doesn't always mean you're ready to make that step to that next 4-week block. You might need to, your 4-week block might take 5 weeks. It might,
Right.
You might be ready in 5 or 6 weeks, and then your next block, that's kind of how professionals do it. And you, I'm heading down a big long tangent here.
Yeah, I mean, we heard something similar from our other person that we talked to this week, which I'm not going to name drop yet.
You will want to pay attention next week.
Yeah. Next week is going to be as high profile of a person as we had
as Nick,
Nick
or Alan, yeah.
Or Alan, yeah, correct. But yeah, I mean, it was the question I wanted to ask him. I wanted to ask directly about, how are you taking the delay of the Olympics? Because this is going to be probably your last shot. But he still kind of touched on that of, I'm kind of trying to tie all of those pieces that you were saying there together of, focus on base training, like
good
focus
luck
on
organizing my mind.
Focus on doing what you can now and doing it well. Which, if this wasn't happening, the the entire track community would be in a very different spot right now. We'd be gearing up for conference meets, for like real serious racing, running huge PRs, trying to get qualifying times. Like everything would be different right now. But everybody's had to shift and adjust and go back to, okay, well, what can I do that is productive right now? Kind of, I think the term that somebody threw out was a holding pattern. I remember being an athlete and having lightning delays in
Pen
meets.
relays.
So
East region all the time.
East region, nationals in Arkansas, you just have to roll with it.
Yeah.
You have to, you were fully warmed up, maybe had your spikes on, and it's like ready to go. Hold on, lightning delay, 2 hours. You might as well have a snack because that's far enough out. But it was the poise, I think, that he was talking about, and this centeredness, groundedness. I don't know exactly what term you want to use, but it's very be where you are and really kind of make the most of the situation that you find yourself in.
Yeah, and kind of may take one step back to a comment I just made and then a step forward. The not rushing into that next phase of training, that I just mentioned, and then being present, like you're mentioning it really kind of goes into the comment he made about play for the long game and the short game will end up better. And I really liked that analogy. I maybe curious how much he likes golf and if that's where that came from, and if it would apply to golf, if you should just like whack it off the tee and pray for a good short game. But he just said play for the long game and the short game will kind of take care of itself. Mm-hmm. And I think that was also a lesson in patience and a comment in patience. Mm-hmm. That whether you're coming back from injury, whether you're healthy, mm-hmm. whether you're no matter what stage you're in, just do the things that are right long term. Mm-hmm. And the things on a minutia level, day-to-day level, will start to fall in place a little bit better.
Yes. I mean, I think if you keep in mind what your end goal is, which is the long game, whatever that might be it, a season best, be it a conference championship, be it a national qualifying mark, or just completing something. Mm-hmm. If you keep that in mind, even while you're going through the daily steps, you're going to likely figure out a better way to do those daily things. And then those build upon each other to get you to the end goal. And he was 100% correct. He was talking specifically about recovery from injury because I think that was a specific question that someone asked. Or maybe he brought it up because he was like, this is something we've all experienced.
He brought it up a couple times,
Yeah.
We're releasing the video tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. So mm-hmm. feel free to watch the whole thing and you'll catch the times he says it. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. I was ready to move on to another one that I am chomping at the bit to talk about because it was really cool to me because I'm kind of a nerd like that.
All right, I've got two topics in my head I wanted to cover. So you go with yours, and I'm sure it's one of mine. So.
Yeah. So the one we'll start off with, it was the long runs.
Absolutely.
Which was really cool to me, probably maybe for a different reason than it is for you, but I don't know. Essentially what he said was...
I like the culture. I like that he said culture.
Culture and community were the two things that he talked about. Was your town gets together. Everybody who runs in your town, they just get together in New Zealand, apparently. And I'm showing my ignorance a little bit.
It screams Leif Erikson on Sunday.
Yeah, just like, hey, we're all going to meet at, it's just sort of an unspoken rule. We're meeting at Leif Erikson at 8:30, and we're going to do a long run. Whatever that might be. Some people are going to run for 2 hours. Some people are going to run for 90 minutes. Some people are going to run for an hour. But that's okay. And the cool thing about it was that it was community focused. It's a culture, and the that part to me was like, wow. Like growing up in Eugene, Eugene has the long history of being very track centric, well educated in running.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, I just think back to times when I've been so exhausted after a workout at like Amazon Trail, and like kind of forgetting that, hey, I should probably check for traffic, and running across the street and cars stop for you. They should be pissed at you.
No, not there.
And no, they go ahead. They're so polite.
Runners
Because everybody's a runner and they all understand.
Yeah.
You get a pass because it's like, oh, you're out running. I did the same thing last week or earlier today or whatever. Like, just, it's all good.
When I'm driving later.
Yeah.
When I'm running
right.
later.
And so to me, that was, it really spoke to me to hear him say that there's that sort of a culture there. And it was really cool.
Yeah, I know you were thinking I was going to head down the route of the training side of it, being the cooler part of the comment, but I agree, and I think the results you get are better anyway if you focus on culture in your team. Mm-hmm. and the training, it's kind of like culture being the long game, and training being the short game. And
mm-hmm.
If you treat people first, if you treat people right, the training will fall into place. People will want to train; they'll get more out of it. Snowballs from there. But
yeah.
On the long run specifically, I really liked that culture aspect that you just went in depth about. But I also really liked his message that that's the focus, and build your program around that, or build your training around that. And you put a championship meet on the schedule and you work backwards from the championship meet. You put the long run on your schedule and you work back from that, in your training. Yeah. And I think he even made I think it was a brief comment. I catch some things because of my, training ear, but hearing Nick Willis say that if you get your long run in, there's a lot of things that get accomplished in that you might not think of. There's research that says that you improve your ability to, build mitochondria, or build capillaries, to move more blood to more places. Kind of the standard things we know about long runs. Build your glycogen stores by depleting them. Mm-hmm. Some of those things, but there's a lot of research, and Peter Snell, who another famous New Zealander just passed. He had a lot of research that went to the effect of, if you do long runs past 90 minutes, you really start tapping into some of those faster twitch fibers, and not just from a contractual standpoint, but from a metabolic standpoint, and how you are training speed through strength and through endurance. So kind of side benefits of doing a long run in different ways. That was cool to hear him say, and especially coming from a mid-distance specialist, someone who primarily is a 1,500 meter runner. He's dabbled in a couple other distances, but he's not real known for the 8. He's not really a 15.8 guy. He's not really known for the 5, not 15.5 guy. He's a 15 guy, and kind of has life besides the 200. Loves the 200. He said.
Yeah, it was funny to hear him say that 200 is his favorite event.
Yeah, high jump. He's 5 events. And high jump. 5 events short, and being a great heptathlete.
Yeah.
The other thing that I thought was really cool for him to say as a mid-distance runner, as a track guy, you think of milers and track guys, and one of my former athletes just jumped on. He's Sam. He's a miler, and he loves the mile, and he'll carry the mile flag forever. But hearing Nick talk about anything longer than a 400, or maybe it was a 600, but he hated 800s on the track, and anything over 400, essentially, he liked doing those reps off the track. He liked going to trails. He liked going to unmarked distances that, you might not be going 600 meters, but you're going a minute and a half or 2 minutes. I thought that was really, really cool to hear him say how much off track he enjoyed. I feel that's uncommon for a track guy to say.
I also agree. I feel like it's real old school.
Very New Zealand, maybe.
Very New Zealand, and you and I know you have the Dillinger connection, the Bowerman connection, like that old training style. But I remember one of my high school coaches was an Oregon guy, and he trained with Ben, your friend Ben, and I remember doing lots of unmarked intervals, and it was more. And you and I have talked about, mileage versus minutes, and honestly, like, your body doesn't care. Physiologically, it doesn't make any difference.
No.
So, yeah, I don't know that it matters, but I think what mattered more was that he was talking about what he enjoyed, and he got to know himself as an athlete, and he built either through, well, I think he said his family is mostly his coaching staff.
Yeah.
But, it's like they know him, and he knows himself, and he can create a good, healthy training program for himself because he knows that information about himself, which I think is a huge strength.
Absolutely. I mean, we're feedback people. Like we want what we did. The work we put in was worth it, and a lot of times we require the watch to tell us the feedback. Did I run fast enough? When I crossed the line, what does the time say? Did I meet the goal for today? And I know I repeatedly say to my athletes that when you cross the line, you should be able to tell before you see a time or before you hear from anybody else whether you feel satisfied with what you just did. And I think at point Nick said that it's that internal motivation that were you happy? Like
thanks, Amanda.
My wife says we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Are you happy? Are you happy with your performance? There's going to be outside conditions you're not in control of, and sometimes we talk about the weather, the wind, the competition as outside factors. Well, the watch is an outside factor too.
Yeah.
It really is, because the watch does not know what you did the night before, how you prepared. Did you do everything you need to? Was it a rough day? Are you having a bad day? And there's the beauty of our sport that the watch doesn't care, and it is an absolute, but it is still a secondary absolute to your own personal feelings, and you need to love what you're doing. You need to find that enjoyment within you before you look for a watch to validate what you're doing. And
and I mean, that's long game, short game. The running a great interval or running a great race is going to feel good, no doubt. But it's short term. We could use all kinds of analogies. It's short chain carbohydrates, or whatever. It's simple sugars. I'm thinking back to telling the team this last cross country season, like, Gatorade is, it's just sugar you don't need, but it's of course the electrolytes and all the other stuff. But it's I'm getting off topic.
Now, short term, that the validation of the watch feels great.
Yeah.
Like you have that PR, you can go to lunch, you can talk about that PR. When you go to lunch, you're not going to talk about, hey guys, like, I really enjoy being your teammate. You don't talk about that. However, when you graduate, when you leave, the first thing you guys call each other and talk about is missing being around each other.
100%.
Missing the opportunity to share the validation of personal enjoyment. And you don't call each other saying, man, I really miss that workout that I did that day. Like, you might miss having done that workout with that person, but it's that relational aspect. So if you focus on the things that really matter long term, you focus on culture with enjoying the process, enjoying each other, enjoying what you're doing, you're playing for that long game.
Yeah.
And as you do that, your short game is going to be more successful. Those results will come, and they will come in a big way. And I think, anybody who's asked about this year with our team, this fall, how did you go from last to third in the conference? And I didn't get to train. I didn't get to send them summer training. I wasn't hired until after summer training. And even though I could have sent them a few weeks, I told them just run and show up, So,
I think I missed the first meet with them.
Yep.
So I came in later.
Yeah. So we had roughly 2 months with them. And in 2 months, I don't think physiologically in 2 months you can affect a team that much relative to you can affect the culture of a team. And so I point to our success this past year as being because of the relational aspect. And I think that playing for that long game gets you those results in the short term. We didn't focus on trying to do the perfect workout. We didn't focus on trying to make sure each person where they were at was exactly addressed. We just said, let's build a culture, let's build a team, and let's have some fun. And it took us about half the season to kind of get that mindset switched, but there was a meet right there mid-year where all of a sudden it clicked. And I just know, as coaches, you and I felt that, like, oh my God, this is happening now. And and then we saw that again at the championship meets, where kind of during the race we almost felt early anxious, like, hey, they're focusing on the relational piece, but we're in a race, and late in the race it materialized that those bonds, those relationships, the things they were working for each other really took over the end of the race.
And as this is coming up, I'm hearing more and more of the things I want to talk about next week. They're jumping into my head because the two people we talked with this week, Nick and the other one, they complemented each other really well, these two conversations, because what you're saying now of the relational aspect and just enjoying the sport, enjoying the process, just exudes out of both of those people. That was one of the biggest takeaways, I would say, from our conversation with Nick, was that he's a true lover of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so,
it was a great conversation with him. And like I said, we're posting that video tomorrow morning. We'll post it on, just about everywhere. So we'll post it here on Instagram, Instagram TV. We'll also post it on our runner space page, LC PiosXC .runnerspace.com. We'll post it on our YouTube. Just search LC PiosXC, and probably at Facebook. We'll probably post it on our Facebook page too. So if you, shame on you. But thanks for joining me, Jeff. Thanks for joining me.
Of course. Yeah, thank you.
Everybody else, from my wife to my former athletes to some recruits. So appreciate you joining us. We had a good time. Nick was awesome. I hope you guys watched that video, and look forward to having you guys on next week. We'll be here next Friday, 4 p.m., talking about a person to be named later.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Have a great day, Jeff.
Thanks, Matt.
All right.
Bye.
Roll Pios.
Roll Pios. Oh, yeah.